This hour of news and views is sponsored by Africa Muslims Agency. Africa Muslims Agency, a beacon of hope to communities for over 35 years in Africa and beyond. In a bit, we'll be joined by Prince Mthombeni. She's the founder of Africa4Nuclear. And we'll be speaking to her about whether or not South Africa should be heading the nuclear route to mitigate the energy crisis. Princey is joining us via StreamYard. Good morning, Princess. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Salam Media.
Thank you so much. Good morning, Sulailo, and good morning to your listeners and viewers.
I think, first and foremost, nuclear, just, the word itself has been so vilified in South Africa that, the moment someone mentions it, eyebrows are raised. I think if you can start by explaining why nuclear energy should be considered as a solution to South Africa's current energy crisis, and if, it could get us out of this mess that we find ourselves in with our over-reliance on coal.
Thank you so much. Sulailo, you're correct in saying this word nuclear has been vilified in South Africa, but not only in South Africa, globally. And that's what happens when politicians enter a technical space. They tend to, politicize everything. But when we speak about nuclear, really, Sulailo, especially in today's world where energy crisis is not only facing South Africa, but is facing many countries, including those that are developed. And so South Africa, if I can say, made this decision to go for nuclear very late when other countries have already made it and have already gone nuclear. Countries like Egypt, which is currently constructing a nuclear power plant, the biggest one in Africa, because our Koberg has 2 reactors, and Egypt is currently building a power plant that will have at least 4 units. So yes, it's a good decision, and we support it.
And just looking at the energy benefits of nuclear energy, what would you say are some of the key advantages compared to other forms of energy, particularly in the context of South Africa's energy needs, and what we see currently happening with our coal-powered fleets?
There are various benefits when it comes to nuclear technology, especially in the South African context. I don't know how many people in South Africa who are aware that we have a power plant called Koberg in Cape Town. Half of Western Cape community, they get their electricity from nuclear, which is Koberg. So 5% of our total electricity comes from Koberg. Now, the benefit of Koberg is that Koberg started operating in 1984. So it's almost 40 years, and it has been operating safely. And Koberg is a paid-off asset, which makes it a really valuable asset for South Africa. And currently, according to Eskom's financials, Koberg, they procure electricity from, Eskom procures electricity from Koberg at the cheapest cost, cheaper than even coal. So Koberg is really currently giving us the cheapest, cleanest electricity, which is another benefit because the world is moving towards cleaner technologies. And in order to achieve what they call net zero carbon emissions by 2050, which is a target of what is it called, the United Nations. So when every country right now which has plans to decarbonize their electricity, they are considering either nuclear or hydro, or a combination of both. So we know that South Africa has very limited capacity for hydro, and so nuclear is a good decision towards a cleaner future.
And I think, we've heard from the Minister of Electricity, Mr. Ramokgopa there, saying, he's pushing for a new 2,500 megawatt nuclear power station, a decision that has been met with a lot of criticism from, various stakeholders, particularly the Democratic Alliance, about the feasibility of this project and where its funding will be coming from. What are your thoughts on this big nuke proposal from Hossein Ramokgopa, which will see us getting a further 25,000 megawatt of electricity?
I think it's the best decision ever, and it's long overdue. Because if you think about it, this 2,500 megawatt capacity of nuclear, it started with the Integrated Resource Plan of 2019. And in 2020, if I'm not mistaken, the government published the request for information where they were testing the market. And right after then, they were supposed to issue out the request for proposals. So I think the arrival of the minister and to make a decision that soon the request for proposals must be gazetted is the best decision. And when it comes to DA, I read the article yesterday. Really, I think they are now. What they are saying is that they have taken the minister to court, obviously, in terms of the Section 34 determination with NERSA, which is the regulator. And it's all about the issue, the compliance issues. And they are saying if the minister can sort out the issues of compliance and then they will not pursue the legal challenge, and that's all that they want. And they are not clear in saying we do not want nuclear in South Africa. I haven't heard them saying that. So I think it's a good step in the right direction.
There's been, a lot of criticism, particularly from, environmental organizations like EarthLife, who argue that South Africa should be investing more in renewable energy instead of nuclear. How do you respond to this? And what makes nuclear a more preferable option compared to renewable energy sources?
Silalo, when you look at these lobbyists, renewables lobbyists, that's what I call them, they're not environmentalists because the true environmentalists, they are not against nuclear because they are aware that according to the UN or the study that was done in the UN European Commission, it says that this world will not be able, it will be almost impossible to achieve net zero carbon emissions by 2050 without the inclusion of nuclear. Because the world has really come to terms with nuclear as being one of the best clean technologies that the world should implement in order to decarbonize their electricity industries. But when you look at the organizations such as EarthLife Africa, they once wrote in their website that nuclear means less renewable. So it means that this fight is more about business and less to do with industrialization or even decarbonization. So I don't think anyone should really take them serious when it comes to that, because nuclear is regarded as one of the clean technologies. And if they call themselves the environmentalist, and their issue is that nuclear is expensive. And I mean, are you an environmentalist or are you an economist? So I think they need to decide what they're fighting. So I don't advise anyone to even listen to the likes of EarthLife Africa.
Let's talk about the technical know-how. I think you did mention that we currently have one nuclear power station, the Koberg Power Station out in the Western Cape. That's only one. Majority of our electricity is coming from coal-powered power stations. In South Africa, does Eskom do we have the right technical people within Eskom itself, to run efficiently a nuclear power station? I think, we've all seen some of the disasters that have been happening around the world, when it comes to nuclear power stations, and just how detrimental they can be if not ran properly, or if, there are any kinds of, disasters within them. Do we have the technical know-how? Do we have the right people, who could run these power stations safely for the country?
Slaylo, I always say to Africans, why are you even looking far away for a study or for benchmarking when it comes to operating a nuclear power plant? We have Koberg, which we have been operating as Africans since 1984, and safely so. And so South Africa is one of the countries that really were number one when it comes to entering the space of nuclear. globally. And currently, we are one of I think we were one of the 4 countries that are manufacturing and exporting nuclear medicine. So this is the country that have a lot of skills. And Silailo, if you remember, we once had a project called the Pebble Bed Modular Reactor Project, which also, had many skilled people working on. And as soon as the project was stopped, those people, they left the country. And in the world, whichever country that is building a nuclear power plant or is operating a nuclear power plant, you will find a South African or South Africans there. If you go to the Sizwell nuclear power plant in the UK, South Africans are working there. If you go to the United Arab Emirates, the plant that has been constructed recently, which started operating recently, the first one in the UAE, you have over 140 South Africans working in that project. In Koberg alone, you have over about almost 2,000 people working in Koberg, and the nuclear skills are not only in Koberg and at the South African Nuclear Energy Corporation. They are spread all over the country. You can go to even universities where you find people, because the South African nuclear industry, for a very long time, they have not made a decision to go nuclear. So the nuclear skilled people decided to venture in other areas where they work, and not just in the nuclear industry. But also, South Africa has bilateral agreements with different countries such as South Korea, France, China, Russia, America, where they take people from South Africa to go study nuclear-related qualifications in those countries, and so that they can come back and plow it at home. So we have enough skills.
I think another key element to this proposed power station, and I think a lot of critics are looking to lash into, is the fact that it's going to take between 8 to 10 years to build a new nuclear power station. How feasible is this timeline? Considering that South Africa's energy needs very, very, very under strain right now. Eskom is struggling right now. We need power right now, to grow the economy, and to make sure that the likes of Kusile power stations are not strained, and we have things like load shedding, that become part and parcel of our lives. Is it a feasible project? Others say, well, you can put in solar panels in short amount of time than you would need to build a new nuclear power station. So the comparison between the two, what do you make of that?
Silaelo, if I asked many people, including you, how long did it take to build all these coal power plants plus Kuba that we have? If you have that type of leaders who do not think visionary, who think about today, then that means we need to clean those leaders and start bringing in new leaders in our countries. Because you can go anywhere in the world, none of those plants were built overnight. But people are benefiting, their countries are industrialized. And again, when did we start having load shedding in South Africa? That over 15 years ago. And then when South Africa wanted to implement and build a nuclear power plant, people said, no, we need electricity now. It's 15 years later, we are facing even worse load shedding than we had before. Now, to answer the question of how long can it take to build a nuclear power plant, I will make an example of the UAE again. The United Arab Emirates, they built their nuclear power plant on time. It took them less than 7 years to switch on the first unit, to connect the first unit to the grid. So yeah, you need a space of 7 to 10 years to build a nuclear power plant, which is not really bad, considering that I don't know if you have kids. I have a child, and my child does not want electricity only now. They want electricity even 20 years later. So it's not just about me and you. It's also about our kids who we need to think of.
No, definitely. I think we're going to leave it there, Princess. Thank you so much for giving us your time and giving us insight on the direction of nuclear and whether or not South Africa should be taking it to mitigate the current energy crisis. I'm sure as the story unfolds and that 2,500 nuclear power station starts taking shape, we'll be catching up with you to get the latest on it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Pleasure's all ours. That was a founder of Africa4Nuclear Princess Mthombeni giving us insight on the route that we are seemingly going to be taking this after Energy and Electricity Minister Kgosientsho Ramokgopa says work is at an advanced stage to procure a 2,500 megawatt of nuclear energy. And he said that the nuclear plan aims to secure, they aim to secure approval from the Treasury to build a 2,500 megawatt power plant next month, with the team working on the deal, finalizing the procurement structure. Ramokgopa also said that the internal conversations related to what type of nuclear technology should be considered, with the late technology seen as very rapid to deploy relatively cheap and more efficient electricity for South Africans. So yeah, next month, Minister of Energy and Electricity will be heading down to Treasury, asking them for money to build a brand new nuclear power station. Looking at some of the coal-powered power stations like Kusile and how long and just how much it was spent on those, I think it's going to be very, very interesting to see how this new nuclear power station is going to be built, because, hey, South Africa doesn't have much time, eh? 15 years, 20 years just for one project to start working. I think we've learned our lessons with the power stations that have been built in the last 15 years, but it's going to be a story that we'll be looking on with quite keen focus, because the whole world seems to be moving in the direction of nuclear and renewables, and nuclear power stations, as you heard from Princess there from Africa4Nuclear, is a valuable source of power, and it can help industrialize our economy, which is in such need of. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll be speaking about Eastern DRC. I think we've been seeing and hearing about what's been happening in that part of the world. You have the SANDF, which is also involved in the Eastern DRC to stop the internal war that's been happening in that part of the world, and we'll be keeping a keen focus on that after the short break.